Grandee is an official aristocratic title conferred on some Spanish nobility, as well as Portuguese nobility and Brazilian nobility. Holders of this dignity enjoyed similar privileges to those of the peerage of France during the Ancien Régime, but unlike in Great Britain, they were not organized into political groupings. It can refer to other people of a somewhat comparable, exalted position, roughly synonymous with magnate, or formally a rank of high nobility. By extension, the term can refer informally to any important person of high status, particularly wealthy, landed long-time residents in a region. The term is often used in the United Kingdom to refer to influential long-standing members of the Conservative Party, Labour Party and Liberal Democrats. Spain. Most Spanish noble titles are granted as titulos del reino, many of which predate the modern Spanish monarchy. The kings of Spain re-established in 1520 the ancient dignity of Grandee to confer as an additional rank of honor. The dignity of Grandee began to be assumed by Spain's leading noblemen in the Middle Ages to distinguish them as a grand seigneur, from lesser ricochambres, whose rank evolved into that of hidalgo. It was, as John Selden MP, the 17th-century English jurist, pointed out, not a general term denoting a class, but an additional individual dignity not only to all dukes, but to some marquesses and counts also. Noble titles, including and above the rank of count, were seldom created in heredity by the kings of Castile and Aragon until the late Middle Ages, in contrast to France and elsewhere in Europe being largely associated with royal offices until the 14th century. The conferral of grandeeships initially conveyed only ceremonial privileges, such as remaining covered or seated in the presence of royalty. Over time, grandees received more substantial rights, e.g., freedom from taxation, immunity from arrest, save at the king's command. They were usually the senior judicial officers of the region. These rights later became open to abuse, with some grandees renouncing their allegiance to the monarchy to wage war on the king. In the late 1470s, King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella I were the first to clamp down on grandee powers assumed by the medieval territorial nobles. In the 16th century, limitations on the number of grandees were introduced by King Charles I, who decreed that the Spanish crown had the sole right to confer dignities of grandee. Subsequently, the Grands de España were subdivided into three grades: those who spoke to the king and received his reply in full regalia, those who addressed the king uncovered, but by right wore the coronets to hear his answer, those who required permission from the king before wearing the coronets. All grandees traditionally have been addressed by the king as mi primo, whereas ordinary nobles are formally styled as mi pariente. Grandees could also be bestowed upon foreigners, such as the memorialist Louis de Rouvroy, Duc de Saint-Simon, who took great pride in becoming a grandee after his successful posting as French ambassador to Madrid, representing King Louis XIV. The dignity of grandee was abolished by the Napoleonic King Joseph Bonaparte, before being revived in 1834 by a statute real when grandees were given precedence in the Chamber of Peers of Spain. Nowadays, all grandees are deemed to be of the first class, and as an honorific dignity conferring neither power or legal privilege. A Grandee de España is a separate legal entity from a title of nobility, although grandees are normally but not exclusively granted in conjunction with a title. Since the 20th century, invariably the King of Spain has conferred a Grandee de España upon any newly created duke. A grandee of any noble rank is higher in precedence than a non-grandee, even if the non-grandee holds a hereditary title of a higher grade than that of the said grandee. Thus, a baron grandee would outrank a non-grandee marquis, thus rendering the dignity of grandee an hereditary rank of precedence rather than a title of nobility. Since 1987, Children of an infante of Spain are recognized as members of the Spanish royal family and are accorded the rank and style of Grandee by courtesy. They do not formally hold this dignity until such time as a title with grandeur is granted to them by the sovereign. Some of the best-known Spanish grandees of the Dukes of Alba, of Medinaceli, of Villahermosa, of Osuna, del Infantador, of Albuquerque, of Moctezuma, of Nájera, of Frias and of Medina Sidonia. Well-known marquesses include those of Aguilar de Campo, of Astorga, of Santillana, and of Los Vieques, the Counts of Benavente, Lorene, Olivares, Onate, and Limos also hold grandeeships. Grandees and their consorts are entitled to the honorific prefix of the Most Excellent Lord, Lady, or His/Her Most Excellency, and they are addressed as Primo by the King. Portugal and Brazil. Both Portuguese and Brazilian nobility formally used the term grande to designate a higher rank of nobleman. The Brazilian system, for instance, automatically deemed dukes, marquesses and counts grandes do imperio. Viscounts and barons could also be ennobled with or without grandeur. Viscounts ennobled with grandeeship displayed and count's coronet on their coat of arms, and barons ennobled with grandeeship bore a coat of arms surmounted by viscount's coronet. The order of precedence in Brazilian nobility was as follows after the members of the imperial family: dukes, marquesses, counts, viscounts with grandeeship, viscounts without grandeeship, barons with grandeeship, barons without grandeeship. Brazilian grandeeships, like its nobility, were not hereditary titles. Grandees were allowed to keep the heads covered in the presence of the king or emperor until such time as the monarch may command otherwise, as elsewhere throughout Europe. These noble families displayed the coats of arms on the properties, carriages, and over the graves. The abolition of the monarchies in Portugal and Brazil extinguished the formal use of such titles, although the use continues among some of the Portuguese aristocracy. Grandee. During the English Civil War, senior military officers from the landed gentry serving in the New Model Army, opposing the levies, came to be informally termed grandees. After the defeat of the King Charles I of England in the Civil War, there were a series of debates and confrontations between the levies, whose members were known as agitators, and the grandees such as Sir Thomas Fairfax, Oliver Cromwell and Henry Ireton, who opposed the agitators' more radical proposals. The disagreements were aired publicly at the Putney debates, which started in late October 1647 and lasted for several weeks.